Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, and I am back again with the Tarot of Physics. So I wanted to see if I can read with these cards. So I'm going to do a deck interview and just see kind of how much I'm baffled. Excuse me. Oh, it's not late. I just always have to do a little yawning. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to do a deck interview. I shuffled the cards, and let's see if I can make any sense out of what comes up. But I'm going to say the first one, no. So question number one is, what are you here to teach people? And this is what I got, atomic clock. So there's the emitter and the collector. Maybe it's kind of how to gather stuff. I don't know why it's called an atomic clock. An atomic clock measures natural microwave energy. And I think I don't know enough about microwave energy to really get that. I would say maybe how to transmit and receive, because that's what this is, or how to emit and collect information. Okay, number two, how would you describe yourself? So this is how the deck is describing itself. And it's saying centrifugal force, the Six of Spades, which would be the Six of Cups. So the Four of Time, I think that time was I don't have it handy anymore. I think time was swords. So, but the Six of Spades is the Six of Cups, traditionally. And we've got gravity and centrifuge, and it says there, centrifugal force pulls outward, while gravity pulls inward. So there's something, you could say this, there's something alluring about the deck that pulls me inward, but at the same time, some of the concepts pull me outward. It's a weird balance. So number three, what is, but if it's centrifugal forces throwing people outward, or going outward, so it may see itself as something of a repellent deck. And I don't find it repellent, I find it interesting, and I'm not sure how readable it is. Anyway, next one, what is your opinion of me? So this is the deck's opinion of me. And it looks like I'm going to be yawning for every single card. Flux capacitor. Now, there's some truth to this, in that this is the Chariot card in this particular deck, and that is my birth card, the Chariot, as well as I'm a Cancer, and that is, and although I have some disagreements with assigning the Chariot for Cancer, but at the same time, I will acknowledge in this situation that this is also my zodiac sign card, traditionally, in so much as those assignments have any tradition whatsoever. So this is kind of being in control is the Chariot, and so that would be the person, the single, and I don't know what you would call that, node or whatever, and then the two other nodes would be energy time and matter space. So, being able to shift back and forth between things, which is true. I think that this is a fairly accurate card in terms of representing me, even in relation to this deck, in terms, or reading, you know, where I can go from a Rider-Waite-Smith to something like this. And what's the next one? Number 4. How can I best work best to learn from or collaborate with you. And so this is interesting because it's quartz crystal. And it makes me think about, all right, so how would I maybe use this deck with crystals, crystal casting? I don't know. So it says, it's like, I don't know why it's got the XYZ all going out. Anyway. A quartz crystal can store and channel electrical energy, is what that says, even though my webcam wouldn't focus on it. A quartz crystal can store and channel electrical energy. So maybe it's saying it'll teach me to just store a deck and wait until it's the right time to be using that deck. I'm not sure. How can I best learn from or collaborate with you? So the other thing is, like, if this deck somehow allows me, be curious. I'll be curious. In fact, I might even do it right after I'm done here. I might set it out and do like a 9-card grid, 3-3-3, and see if I can read it more intuitively. And that 9-card grid is good for me in terms of intuitive. Instead of relying so much on the diagrams and the specific statement that's on here, I may be able to get other things from a group of cards that I wouldn't get from them in this way, where you have 1 card per question. So, number 5, what are your strengths as a deck? Potential energy. 5 of energy. And energy is wands, I believe. Potential energy is stored. And this is what are your strengths as a deck. And will be used when triggered. And again, we're kind of getting back to being stored here. So maybe only using this for very specific types of readings. What are your weaknesses or limitations as a deck? Vacuum, 5 of space. So I would take this as a limitation, that it's not a good deck. It's not a love deck. It's not an emotional deck, because that's what you have is emptiness, a feeling of emptiness, which is what you would have with a 5 of cups. Yeah, I'm just going to take that as, this is not a love and relationship deck because of this. Because of its very technical nature. So number 7, I think there's 10 total in this. I'll be flipping the card over here in a minute, as in the spread card. I keep my spreads on 3x5 cards. So what is the potential outcome of our time together? And oddly enough, I get dark energy. So 9 of energy. 70% of the universe is made of undetectable dark energy. So maybe, again, it might be, I might need to learn to use it intuitively, because to me that would be that dark energy. Not the direct message, but having to go at it a little bit slant and do more intuitive perceiving. Yeah, it's going to be curious, like I said, to lay out a group of cards and see if I can read them intuitively. The other aspect of this that I could see is, again, that I'm not going to use this deck very much, but it does have a time. There is a time to use it. Apparently 30% of the time, would be when I use it, since it says here 70% of the universe is made of undetectable dark energy. But I think that it's, again, it's like it's going to be an exercise in intuitive readings. And, you know, a potential outcome of our time together is my being able to work with that more. Next question, what is one thing you ask of me? So the deck is asking of me to orbit. Each cycle has its own starting point. And again, what I get out of that, and this is the Wheel of Fortune, is to use the deck, put it away, revisit it, go through the cycle again, take it out, do another deck interview, get to know it, put it back away, come back, a new starting point, that whole, to give it time to cycle, to circle around the deck. And there's a number of decks that I'm getting to know in that way. And I don't know what brings me to decide that a deck is worth keeping and messing with, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm letting it go. I'm just letting it go. I'm not gonna take it to bed multiple times, which is what I tend to do. I take them to bed and I go through them. It would be interesting if I could figure that out. I could make decisions more quickly, maybe. Next, what kind of readings do you enjoy the most? Strong force. So maybe when something definitive is needed. The strong force holds a nucleus intact, but has no influence farther out. So again, this might just be, as much as I want to look at it in 9 cards, this might be like an oracle deck. You pull one. And maybe it's one in terms of holding a nucleus intact, the way a lot of people talk about oracles as kind of summing up, or, you know, gathering together all of the threads of a reading. So that's really interesting. And it could also mean that it needs to be, it can be brought out as a central issue in a reading, as opposed to providing a lot of very different or peripheral. So not to pull it as clarifier cards or extra cards, so much as to pull it as a central issue that's being dealt with. The last question is, how will you challenge me? And I've got expansion. Well, it does require expanding one's definitions of the cards, expanding what cards can potentially mean, expanding really how physics can have any bearing or any relationship to tarot cards, individual tarot cards. This is the 10 of Spades. It would be the 10 of Cups. And it's got that expansion going on at the top of the cup there. And it says at the bottom, the universe has been expanding since the beginning of time. So, continual expansion. So I'm going to have to continue to expand my understanding, and perhaps expand my use of this deck as I become familiar with it. But I'm glad to have it, and I got it even, when I looked at it, I thought, this is a novelty deck. It's a novelty deck, and so I may end up, like the, what is the food tarot? Oh, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, there's a tarot out there that's like restaurant food. It's really, and just food in general. And I really got a kick out of it and really enjoyed it. But it was a novelty deck, and I eventually passed on to somebody else to get a kick out of and, acknowledge it and Who knows? Maybe somebody uses it in spreads. I don't know. But when I looked at this, I thought, you know what? That is so novel. It's such a novel novelty deck. And the wedding of science and tarot, that I thought, even though it's a novelty deck, that it would probably go in the classification with the Fantod pack, the Edward Gorey deck. And it's like, it's just so out there that it's just in there to be part of the collection, regardless of how much I use it, because it's just very, I don't know, both amusing and, I don't know, occupies a place in my heart. And I sort of feel like this Tarot of Physics kind of has that vibe to it for me. It's such a stretch, for one thing. And, being somebody who in the past had been science nerdy and loving science in general, never physics particularly, but science in general, that I really just think it's fun. I think it's fun. It will be fun to bring out on occasion and use. But, would it survive the desert island question? What decks would you take? 5 decks would you take on a desert island? Well, this is not going to be one of them. But since I'm not in that situation, I'm lucky enough to have it in my collection for as long as I want. At least I hope, on the assumption that I am never in that desert island situation. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.